For me, I sat in front of a judge. I stood in front of a judge who used my pedigree against me, told me that I should have known better, that I was too smart, that I had raised too much money not to know better, that I had too good of legal counsel not to know any better. And because of all of those things, he was going to make an example out of me. And he sentenced me to 2 years in the Department of Corrections. Of those 2 years, there was an 85% good time and 90 days of good time. So I ended up doing about 15 months, which is where my 10.
Welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host, and you're welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. And today I have an incredible guest that I'm very excited to talk to, get to learn from, and connect with. But before I introduce him to you, though, I just want to give a big shout out to all of you who have been leaving comments, reviews, and likes on all the major podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, and to those who have been watching on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. You are the reason why we do what we do. Isn't that right, Travis?
They are.
And before, I want to ask you for a favor. If you get something out of this interview, if you get some kind of value, some kind of insight, some information, skill, or the inspiration to go out and take some action towards your goals, I want to ask you to please share this episode with 10 friends. Since this is how we grow, this is how we're able to share our message and motivate, inspire, and bless other men out there to change their lives. Today, I have Travis Richey, and he's a husband, father, entrepreneur, advisor, investor, has invested in a ton of companies and startups. He went from millions to prison, and then from prison to millions again. So I'm very excited to dive into his story. So Travis, thank you very much for being here, man. I really appreciate your time, and you're welcome, man.
Yeah, man. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful for everybody who's listening, especially because I think that your story is very, very unique, very unique. I think that if the people that are listening really know that what you've gone through and what it takes for you to get here, you attract your tribe. The more authentic that you speak, the more those same people want to be around you and learn from you and know you and get to know you better and follow you. And so the people that are listening to me, if they know your authentic story, those people are very special. And so I'm grateful to be here.
Thanks, man. I'm grateful for you being here. And yeah, I've shared my story a couple of times. I've stopped sharing it because, I've shared it in like a lot of dozens of episodes, but now I don't. So, but people who listen to this probably know it. And yeah. So Travis, the first thing that I do with my guests, man, is I tell them to walk us through their entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less.
75 seconds or less. Here we go. My entrepreneurial journey gives me what I term solopreneur. That word to me is kind of a word that is becoming very, very popular. A solopreneur is somebody who starts at the beginning, at the bottom, and wears all of the hats: the sales, the marketing, the customer service, the research and development, the finance. The solopreneur is becoming a new modern gentleman to me. So much of what has gone on over the last 2 years has created this microcosm of solopreneurs, people who are setting out on their own, whether it's through Etsy, whether it's through podcasts, whether it's through starting their own small businesses. And so for me, I've always considered myself a solopreneur. No matter how many millions of dollars I've made, I always want to be the guy in the trenches with the boots on the ground, constantly learning.
Nice. That's the attitude to have, right? Of constant growth and being a learner and never stop learning and never getting too satisfied or comfortable to think that you don't have to grow anymore.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. There's I believe it's Richard Branson, or maybe he took it from somebody, but he definitely said it. He said that the best thing that he does is he starts the businesses and then he walks away. We hear this at different stages, and a lot of people have coined it. the team that took you from $0 to $1 million is usually not the team that takes you from 1 million to 10 million, or, in some capacity. And so when you really understand what your unique value is to the world, or is to the business community, or is to entrepreneurship, you become very, very hyper-focused. And so for me, what I know about myself, I always view myself as the conduit. I'm the deal maker. I'm the deal maker. And so I put people together in the room who bring the biggest amount of value to the world, and we set forth on projects that light the world on fire. I have great friends in that network who are fantastic CPAs. I have great friends in that network who are amazing attorneys. I'm neither one of those. I am not somebody, even though I'm a numbers guy, I don't like to get bogged down in the P&Ls. And even though I enjoy contracts and negotiations, I don't want to get stuck in those agreements. And so for me, what I do is I put people in the room who bring the greatest amount of value. I'm the conduit. I serve as that nucleus for opportunity and wealth.
That's amazing, man. And that's what, Ford, what was his first name? Henry Ford, right? That's what he did. He literally didn't know anything about engineering or building cars. He just put the right people. He just brought the right people inside of the room and made projects that lit the world on fire as well.
Yeah. And that becomes the ticket. That becomes the recipe for me. When I was in business school, there was kind of these two schools of thought about failure. And so, you'd get statistics and they would say 9 out of 10 businesses fail, right? Statistically. Mm-hmm. And so there's two schools of thought in that entrepreneur journey. The first school of thought is the individual that says failing 9 times is something that I don't have the intestinal fortitude to do. I can't take the failure. I can't take the punishment over and over and over. And the second school of thought is the individual that wakes up and says, all I need to do is fail 9 times.
Yeah.
And those are your schools of thought. And so what I found typically in business, with people that get into business together, I get a question a lot. People say, what do you think about business partnerships? So for me, business partnerships always work if the people are aligned, similar to the pillars that you yourself live upon, right? If the two of us are family men and our focus is devoting as much time as possible to our girls, and we bring in the third partner who doesn't have children, it's going to be a very difficult thing for us to have this symbiotic relationship, right?
Yeah.
Even as good of friends as we may be, or value we might all bring to the table. So that's, to me, where I serve best in my capacity. I align people and projects and profitability. And so when I bring people to the table, I'll say, look, this particular project fits our buy box for these half a dozen reasons. But personally, it fits our buy box for these legacy reasons. And so profitability will come as a result if those two first things are aligned.
That's a great insight, man. You don't sound like it, but like it fires, it triggers. I just went through the book, Who Not How.
Yeah.
It was a great shift, man. It was a great mind shift to have. It was like, I think I cried like 2 times during the book, honestly. Yeah. And like what you're talking about just gets that, that same fire that came, like that went on when I read the book, it's coming up again.
Yeah. And Simon Sinek says it best. People don't buy what you have. People buy why you're doing it. Right. Yeah. And so when you start to really talk about, especially in today's world, for everybody that's listening and is on the entrepreneur journey, you start to talk about what's your ideal message. So many of us, I have a very good friend. His name is Brad Lee. If you haven't heard of him, you should go and watch him, go and follow him. He's a monster and he's a genius when it comes to marketing. And he talks about it all the time. He says, the more hands you shake, the more money you make. And he tells a story that, a long time ago, when he got enough money, he hired a videographer. And the videographer showed up and said, all right, Brad, it's time to film. And he said, I can't do it for these 3 reasons. And the video showed up the next day, same story. And he said, you know what? I just told him, man, I am the content. Turn the camera on. Yeah, and, right, 4 years later. And so I think that for anybody out there who's listening and, the whole, where do I start? It's such a good lesson to people that you start exactly where you are. You don't start with 1 million followers. You don't start with $1 million. You don't start with all sorts of knowledge. You start exactly where you are, perfectly imperfect. And what you do is you build upon that over time. And if you're authentic, If you're authentic in your journey and you're authentic in your missteps and you're authentic with the people that you engage with, it all just becomes a buildup. In the financial term, we have compound interest. And so over time, what you're doing on your 110th episode, you have compound interest, right? You have compound interest from listeners, you have compound interest from sponsors, compound interest from guests, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And most people in today's world, especially in social media where we live by our thumbs, they want that interest today or yesterday. Everybody wants abs in 7 minutes and $1 million in 30 days and, the Lamborghini from their mother's basement. And so the adversity is really what gets you all of those things that you quote unquote want. But so many of us don't understand that our opportunity to live in our greatness is just on the other side of all of that adversity.
Of going through the process. Yeah. And a lot of people have it backwards, right? So there's this analogy that I really like to illustrate this point that I'm trying to make. So there's a guy called Peter Sage, right? He worked along the side of Tony Robbins. And he was the trainer for Tony Robbins. And on his team, Tony Robbins' team, when you became a trainer, right, you would get a jacket, right? You would get a jacket that meant that you were a trainer. And this guy would work really hard. He would do everything that he thought he had to do in order to become a trainer, but he would never get promoted to become a trainer, right? Until one day he got fed up and he was like, I don't need that damn jacket to prove to myself or to validate that I'm a trainer. So he just started acting like a trainer, right? And started to do the things that a trainer would do. And then all of a sudden he got promoted just like that, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people want to make millions, right? But, and they do all the things that they think is required for them to make millions in order for them to become a millionaire. So they think that in order for them to become a millionaire, they need money in the bank. Yeah. But when they become a millionaire, then they'll get the money in the bank.
You're absolutely right. I tell people all the time, you have to become the man who's deserving of the bag before the bag comes, right? Yeah, because 100%. Your life will change in every capacity. Your life, when you get the money that you have dreamed of, whatever that number is, if it's $10,000 a week, $10,000 a month, $10,000 a day, $10,000 an hour, whatever it is, the moment you get to that point, every aspect of your life changes. Oprah makes a comment. She says, if you want to find out how long people want to be in your life, give them money and you'll find out. And so there's a very interesting point to that narrative. Every foundation in your life, both personally and professionally, will change when you get the bag. And so you need to become the man that you want to be. You need to understand what time really does to you. Where do I really spend it when I really have that actual freedom? And then once you've built yourself into that person, then you get to secure the bag. Then you have those financial rewards.
Mm-hmm. So
let me ask you, have you chatted with Peter Sage?
Yeah, he's my mentor.
This guy?
Yeah, he's my mentor. Man, let me tell you my experience with this guy. Like last year.
My guy. Shout out.
To you?
Yeah.
On his
Anyhow,
book?
Keep going. Yes. Yeah. I'm glad you guys know each other. He's an absolute legend. Keep going.
He is, man. So look, last year I have this big ass calendar by Jesse Itzler. That's how it's called. Big ass calendar.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
And I track my emotions there, right? Like, I don't know if you've seen like this little cone that has the emotions and the vibrational frequencies of each emotion, right? So like depression is like black, and then fear and doubt is like purple, and then it starts to get better, green and blue and stuff like that. So I track my emotions there and I color it. And last year, out of every month, every 30 days of the month, 28 out of those 30 days were spent in fear, doubt, frustration, and overwhelmed. Right, 28 out of those 30 days, right? So I wasn't having a nice time. And then I came across Peter Sage a couple of months ago, and in January, out of those 30 days of the month, about 20 I spent in purple or orange or red, like fear, doubt, frustration, and overwhelm. February, I have a color them, so I just like walk out and I have it in my calendar there. In February, I had like 15 days that were colored something else that wasn't blue or green. Blue is on fire and green is positive, right? And then in January, February, March, I had like maybe 10 days that were colored purple or red, right? And then in April, man, I had like 4 snippets here and there. 4 like I color the full day, right? Based on how I'm feeling. and I had like 4 snippets of purple here and there. And that's about it. And right now, the majority of my days every single month are made up of blue or green.
Good.
And like that shift, I was able to make that shift from working with Peter Sage.
He's an absolute legend.
Yeah, man. I'm extremely grateful. Like I wasn't having a nice time, man.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing, Alex, and I'm glad you brought it up, because let's talk about the realities of life. Most people listening to this are not having a nice time. You got it, brother. I say it all the time. If we treated everybody, you know, that we met like they were going through something major, something catastrophic, some major event in their life, some trauma, some fear, some self-doubt, we'd probably be right about 80 or 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And I think that when we start and when we lead with that empathy, when we talk to people like we know that they're going through something, could be failure, could be fear, could be self-doubt. So many of us, when we're brushing our teeth in the morning or at night, looking at ourselves in the mirror, we're the first people to pick ourselves apart. Mm-hmm. Easy, right? It's easy to have that self-doubt creep in. Nobody's going to buy my product. Nobody's going to purchase my book. Nobody would really believe in me as a coach. I can't even get my life together. I can't even get my room clean, right? You start to run through all these things in your head, and we start to think that we're the only people that are chasing rabbits.
Yeah, well, and that's not the truth. Right?
It's not the truth at all. It's not the truth at all. When you really talk about it, when you really look back, right? Like the only difference in life, and this is true for Instagram as well, for everybody that's curious. The only difference between someone in life who has what we call made it, like quote unquote made it, and those who haven't, is the amount of tries and the willingness to keep failing. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. And so what I would tell people is you really need to define failure versus obstacles. Like obstacles are the natural side effects of pushing your limits. When you push your limits, you fail, right? When you have a little baby, you have a little baby, well, not little anymore, but you had a little baby, right? And so I have a 1-year-old right now, and she's our youngest. And so when she wanted to walk, we wanted her to fall. We wanted her to fail. We wanted her to learn. And so the obstacles that we encounter in life, those are natural side effects of pushing your limits. When you try to run a marathon and you can't because your feet cramp at mile 17, that's an obstacle. It's not a failure. But part of that growth process is the pain. And so what we often subscribe to in the world of social media is that the obstacles are failure, and they're neither. It has nothing to do, one has nothing to do with the other. When you fail a test in school, you don't say to yourself, I failed because I'm a bad test taker, right?
No.
Right. And so one obstacle and the other is oftentimes opportunity, where we need to remove society, Instagram, conversations, all of it. We need to rewire failure, and we need to understand obstacles.
Yeah, 100%. So, man, you know, we've been here for like 20 minutes. You've shared a lot of wisdom. You sound, you know, like very like full of confidence and conviction. You seem like you know who you are, what you want, and where you're going. So let's go back. Like, were you always like this?
Golly, no, man, not at all. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell, you know, where he talks about, you know, taking 10,000 hours out of your life to really become an expert. And my 10,000 hours in my life, where I became as confident as I am right now, started in a prison cell.
Damn.
Yeah, that was my life 2.0. For me, you know, my opportunity to reframe my life moving forward started while I was incarcerated. For me, you know, I didn't party growing up. I didn't do drugs growing up. I wasn't a troubled teen. And, you know, I did stupid things. We all did stupid things, but it wasn't, you know, I wasn't out knocking over liquor stores and you know, running around doing methamphetamines. For me, I never should have gone to prison.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. Real quick, do you want to know how I've been using my podcast to build a multi-million-dollar network with over 100 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs, reach hundreds of my ideal clients with my message coaching service and podcast, get invited to speak on 4 stages in the last 2 months alone, throw my own events, and have over 100 successful entrepreneurs being willing to speak at my events, become a millionaire in 1 year, get mentored by multimillionaires, and achieve goals that I thought were going to take me 10 years to achieve in 1 year, and ultimately get unstuck and make quantum leaps of progress in my business and life with less than 1 hour of work just by being myself? If you answered yes to any of those, I just want to invite you to a free training showing you how I've been able to build a multi-million-dollar network that is helping me achieve bigger income goals faster with only 1 hour of speaking and just being myself. To be honest, I thought I was going to be a multi-millionaire, speak on stages, throw my own events, and live a successful, happy, and fulfilled life of growth and impact in 10 years from now. That seemed so far away, but my podcast has been able to help me do that in less than 6 months. I'm actually doing all of that this year at the age of 21 with my podcast. I'm reaching thousands of people with my message, my service, my podcast, my coaching. I've gotten booked to speak on 4 stages in the last 2 months. And on these stages, I'm going to be getting in front of hundreds of my ideal clients, making roughly around 15 to 30K plus per event. Not only that, I have a network of over 100 high-level, multi-million-dollar entrepreneurs who have all agreed to speak at my events. Getting clients is a problem of the past. I've gotten the opportunities to learn from billionaires, and I'm collapsing decades of time, and I'm literally achieving what I thought was going to take me 10 years to achieve in 1 year. All of this because I use podcasting as a networking tool, and I leveraged a rare concept called the cloak track. And I want the exact same thing for you. Just imagine where you could be in 1 year from now if you get this free training right now. That is why I'm inviting you to this training. On this short training, you're going to learn how a small group of purpose-driven entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, course creators, and speakers have combined podcasting with this rare concept called the cloak track to build a multi-million-dollar network, reach thousands of their ideal clients with their message, books, courses, coaching, make an extra $118,800, get booked on 10 stages, and build a successful network of entrepreneurs who speak on their stage, all of this in under 6 months. I'm going to walk you through the 4 steps to make this work. Step number 1, alignment. Getting clear on who you want to be, what you want to do, your goals, your purpose, and aligning all of this with building your podcast and your ideal podcast guest. Step number 2, leveraging the cloak track to find your ideal podcast guest and never running out of them. Step number 3, leveraging the cloak track to close an interview with anyone, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem. And step number 4, the content machine. The content machine is the key to tapping into other people's audiences. And I'm going to show you all of those 4 steps. The link to access this free training is in the description of this video. Click on it and go watch this training right now so that you can learn how you can too build a multi-million-dollar network that helps you achieve bigger goals faster and with less effort. Note, this training is only available to 18 people, so act right now, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
I never should have been in prison. I never deserved to be in prison. And I could give you that narrative all day long. Why is me? Woe is me. Here's why the state was wrong. And that doesn't serve me. And it definitely doesn't serve the people that are listening. And it certainly doesn't serve the people that I get to serve every Friday. So I had the opportunity to go to prison. That's how I view it. For me, I sat in front of a judge. I stood in front of a judge who used my pedigree against me, told me that I should have known better, that I was too smart, that I had raised too much money not to know better, that I had too good of legal counsel not to know any better. And because of all of those things, he was going to make an example out of me. And he sentenced me to 2 years in the Department of Corrections. Of those 2 years, there was an 85% good time and 90 days of good time. So I ended up doing about 15 months, which is where my 10,000 hours comes from. So for me, it was a very powerful opportunity to get outside of myself. I left the yard every day. I went and taught at a local community college that had a small business development center attached to it where all of the prison yards would meet. And so I had the opportunity to mentor inmates on a daily basis that were all around me and talk to them about financial literacy, educate them on credit score, and really give them some opportunity to have some tangible skills when they got out about business building and life 101. That to me was where my life really started and really where I found what was inside of me. From that point forward, when I got released, it was my mission to really change the narrative around second chances. I didn't want to get involved in whether this drug was better than that drug, or this person was worse than that person. I just knew that 9 out of the 10 people that get incarcerated will eventually one day come back to the streets. And if we're going to treat the disease, we've got to start with treating the human. Mm-hmm. And that to me led with the empathy component. I believe that too often we're too quick to throw away the key, lock an individual up, forget about their identity, let go of their greatness. We're so quick to judge people, especially in today's society where we want to put our heroes on pedestals and knock them off so quickly. So my opportunity was sitting inside of a prison cell. And for the first 3 months, it was woe is me. It was, I don't belong here. It was, I don't look like these guys, talk like these guys, act like these guys. I don't deserve this. I've got better. But when I really got outside of myself, I learned that there was an opportunity to change the world. And that's the reason that I started Accomplished Ventures. My goal was to change the world by bringing literacy and curriculum and education and life skills back into the prison system so that I could take care of the souls that were incarcerated.
That's accomplished
Ventures.
Accomplished Ventures. Got it. So that's what you do with Accomplished Ventures.
That's what we do with Accomplished Ventures. Yeah, I get to go back inside, and we're now the largest provider of prison curriculum in the United States. So we have 42 different courses that is everything from curriculums of communication and business building 101, all the way to guilt and shame and trauma and self-doubt and some of the intangibles and conversations that don't happen. That goes on behind prison walls. On this side of the prison wall in society, I have the opportunity every day to coach individuals through their habits and through their belief systems. I found over the last decade that most of the time, the individuals that are incarcerated go through the same problems as my CEOs and entrepreneurs out here.
Crazy,
self-doubt. Right? What's that?
Crazy, right?
It's crazy. It's crazy. The self-doubt that happens, whether you're incarcerated or free, is the same. And I have so many guys that are behind prison walls that live a more fulfilled life than a lot of my CEOs that I get to talk to on a daily basis.
Damn. They're more free, even though they're incarcerated.
Yeah. No, it is. And when you really get to the rock bottom, right, you dive into who you are, and you get to peel away everything. You don't have a phone in front of you. You don't have people that are judging you in front of you. Everybody's the same color of shirts and pants and hairstyle and whatever it might be. You start to really go, well, what am I going to do? Why am I really here on earth? In America, North America, typically men get 78 years of life. That's the average life expectancy of a male, right? Mm-hmm. We get 78 birthdays, my friend. And so I would coach everybody listening to this to write down in the right-hand corner of any piece of paper that they look at every day, how many of those birthdays they've burned through. What do we have left? What do we have left? And what really, really matters? When you really think about what matters and you start to reprogram yourself and you start to reverse engineer a plan, you're no longer afraid to step up and swing for the fences. You're no longer afraid to start that business. You're no longer afraid to go after that significant other and love like it really could hurt. That is what I found. Whether you're incarcerated, whether you're free in society, those belief systems are in place, and it's our opportunity to change them for folks in the country.
Yeah, man. So you sound purpose-driven. You sound passionate. So I kind of get the idea why you said that, when you went to prison was when your life started, but you had already made millions before going to prison. So, mm-hmm. so like, and I've seen this pattern, right? Like this, entrepreneurs that have it all, they have millions and everything, but they're like, I've checked all the boxes. I've gotten have the wife, the kids, the business, the car, everything. And still like, I don't feel happy. I don't feel successful. I don't feel fulfilled. Was that the case for you? Or what do you mean when you say that your life started when you went to prison?
Yeah. So my life started when I went to prison because I found fulfillment and happiness inside myself. Up until that point, I was chasing the millions. I was actually compensating for a life that was insignificant prior to then. my father's a notorious organized crime figure. My mother's a single mother. And growing up, we had, a rough upbringing. There was times we lived in our vehicle. There was times we lived in other people's houses, slept in other people's houses. There was times that we were on church welfare. And so up until that point, now that I was able to do something with my life, I'll be damned if I was ever going to be broke again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was chasing that money. I was chasing those commas. And it didn't give me any sense of joy. I can remember, and I can remember looking at my Wells Fargo statement, making $1 million in 1 month. And I just filed it. That was it. It was renovation.
No gratitude or anything?
No gratitude, no excitement. There was such a point of gluttony. There was a point where if a new vehicle came out and you wanted it, you went and got it. And it was such a problem that I was driving luxury and exotic cars to dealerships, leaving them there so I could purchase another one, driving the new one home, and then figuring out a way to get my vehicle back that was still sitting at the dealership. It became just an animalistic endeavor. There was no opportunity there for me to really change the world. And so I was just reeling from a childhood that came from a scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to chase the commas and chase the zeros. And so when I really got to prison and I didn't have anything, you started to look around and say, well, what is life about? And that to me is where I understood my why. I talk about depression quite a bit. I think that it's a buzzword that we use in society. And so while I was incarcerated, I met a lot of gentlemen that were depressed or thought that they were depressed. And so I would have them do this thing. It was very simple because in prison, nothing is technologically driven. And I would say, just write down all of your thoughts for me. If you think you're depressed, write them all down for me. And then we're going to talk about them tomorrow night after dinner. We'll walk the track. And then they would come to me and they'd say, okay, here's all my thoughts. And when you read them out loud, you realize really quickly that depression is mostly selfish.
Damn. Yeah. It's selfish.
Yeah.
You're like cutting yourself from the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that to me was an opportunity to start to reframe conversations on the yard. We have the power to create meaning from any circumstances. And while I was in prison, I would constantly contrast where I was sitting in that concrete cell. When my wife would come and visit me in these little tiny visitation trailers, makeshift trailers with vending machines, I would tell her, I'm going to be on stages around the world. I'm going to be talking about this with my kids in the front row. I'm going to make sure that my children know there's no such thing. I want to make sure that everybody knows my gratitude. And so for me, I manifested it. I talked about it. I made it happen. And that to me is what I knew I had to do with this obstacle that was in front of me, which was prison.
Mm-hmm. So that was an incredible story, man. And yeah, so I don't remember the quote, but it's just what you said, right? So like depression, doubt, fear, it's selfish. All of that is selfish. And like you can get rid of it, first of all, with gratitude and by getting out of yourself and going and serving other people.
Serving other people, my friend. When you really talk about adversity, every adversity that anybody's going through right now, and we're all going through something, as optimistic as I might sound, and if you're watching me on camera, you know that I'm lively and I'm excited because I want to get into your skin. I want to get into your psyche. Every adversity that you're going through right now carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. I promise you that. The challenge is that for most people, they're so focused on the adversity in front of them that they don't water the seeds. When you look at your mind on a daily basis, whatever you plant in there is going to grow. And so I can't tell you, like, we can't put the milk back in the bottle. We can't unring the bell. I've got a felony, right? We can't unring that bell, but felon is nothing but a noun. And you can't change the definition of a noun, but you can put an adjective in front of that noun and you can change the perspective.
Nice. That was powerful. Yeah. Cool, man. So, all right. So So what convicted mindset is all about?
That's what convicted mindset is all about. So in order to make a change in life, we believe that you must be convicted. Anybody who's gotten to where they want to go, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, never gets there by doing it halfway, 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Everybody you know who has set out to become great has been convicted. And that's what convicted mindset is about. We have the power to create meaning from any circumstance. And when you are convicted and you want to take your life in your own hands and take it to where you know you need to belong, that's where the convicted mindset starts. So there's this old saying that, there's a space and time between stimulus and response. In between that gap where you choose, right? You get to make that choice what's happening in your life. And I can promise you the worst prisons in America are not made up of concrete and steel. They're the limiting beliefs that people place between their ears every day. They're the ceilings that people will place over their heads. They're the opportunities that people will forego because they're scared or they're fearful or they have self-doubt. They live in prisons every day here in freedom. They drive around in circles around the office and they don't want to go inside because they hate their job, but they know they need it because they're in debt to their eyeballs. They don't want to pull into their house or go into their garage because they don't have a great relationship with their spouse or their children, and they don't know how to conversate. Those people, to me, are serving life sentences.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Completely true. Yeah, I'm just like, taking it in, right?
Yeah.
So, man, like I haven't said this on a podcast, but actually, my stepfather just went to jail, man, and well, that's my mother's husband, right? He just went to jail, and that's it. He just went to jail, but he's more incarcerated not by the walls and the bars that he is in, but by his own mind. That's like, I can totally see him. Like when I talked to him a couple of times, and yeah, it's sad. And I'm going to send him, because I've gotten you on my podcast for now, and then I've gotten what's your partner's name?
John Crane.
I've gotten him on my podcast, and I've gotten Alex Hayden. He's another entrepreneur that was convicted as well. Mm-hmm. And I want to send him these 3 interviews so that they can see your mindset is what will keep you trapped.
I'm telling you, it is the number one thing that will change. You hear it all the time in you name it. Like, let's talk about fitness, for example, right? People will say, oh, I'm big boned, or I've tried it before, right? A million excuses, right? But you're not fully convicted. You're not totally committed. Mm-hmm. That's the answer to it, right? Like, where your energy comes from, right? That what we know, the energy inside of you is where your focus is going to flow. So where your focus goes, your energy flows. And when you focus on that, like, oh, I'm big boned, oh, I've tried this before, you're already giving yourself parts of those self-doubt. Yeah. And so, but I want to tell you, you're not alone. Like, I don't want to just come up here and point a finger at you. The bottom line is that most everybody in life focuses on what they're afraid of or what they fear could happen. And so, like, let's unpack that for a little while. You grow up as a child and we're told, don't cross the street, don't go with strangers, don't touch the stove, don't, right? Mm-hmm. It's no wonder that you grow up as an adult and you start focusing on things that you shouldn't be doing or things that could harm you, right? We're told that every single day of our life, don't do this, don't do that. And so most of the time, most everybody focuses on those things. And so when you're focused and you're looking in those directions, what could go wrong, what might hurt me, etc., that's oftentimes what you get more of.
100%. When you focus on girls, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. I don't know what, maybe it's because it's my 4th interview, but I don't know why I don't have anything to talk about, man.
No, man, I think it's incredible. I think when you're talking about, for me, what you talk about all the time is very impactful. The pillars that you talk about, the physical, the emotional, the financial, the sentimental, I want to make sure that people really go back. And if you haven't heard those lessons, that Alex teaches that you really go back and you take some time to soak it up. I think oftentimes we will tell people, I don't have any self-esteem because my mom or my dad used to say mean things to me, or I had siblings who made fun of me, or I got bullied in junior high. And I want to, sit here before you and tell you it's just a bunch of nonsense. Mm-hmm. The only way that you do or you do not have something, confidence, self-esteem, whatever it is that you have physiologically subscribed to the ideas that either people or yourself have put into your head every day. What I mean by that is the ideas that you have about yourself have created the actions in your life. And those actions are what gave you or took away from you. And 100%. That's what I want to focus on for folks. That's what I want to make sure that you get out of this is like, you need to know where you're headed in life and you need to commit to it. Commitment is scary. It's scary in business. What if I fail? It's scary in a relationship. What if she leaves? You have to commit 110% to yourself, no matter what. And a lot of times that takes a boatload of courage. Courage is scary. Courage is a scary word that we really don't unpack often, because you want to know what doesn't take courage? What? Looking like everybody else. Right?
That's easy.
That's easy. Having the same bank account as everybody else. You know, the typical person in America lives paycheck to paycheck and doesn't have $400 in their savings account. So when you start to stack all of these things that are easy, when you start to look like the people that are next to you, when you're stuck in traffic like the other individuals alongside you, are those really the actions of an individual who's committed, of somebody who has courage? And so the last one that I would focus on is capacity. So many times we don't give ourselves enough confidence to bring up our capacity. We're afraid, what if we take on too much? I hear it all the time, every day. People who love me will tell me, oh, be careful, Travis. Oh, slow down, Travis. Right? They have my best intentions for me, but they don't know what's up here. They don't know how I'm wired. And so they want the best for me. And so our capacity is far greater than anything we've given ourselves credit for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a saying that of this guy. I'm not bad at names. I've just haven't practiced, sure, remembering names enough. But he said, if you knew how powerful you were, you wouldn't stop smiling.
So true.
Right.
So true.
Travis, we have a couple of minutes, man. And, I end my interviews with 5 questions. So okay. The first one is, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self if you could?
Golly, brother.
How old are you? How old are you right now?
Say it again.
How old are you right now?
38.
Okay,
I tell my kids I'm still 21, so we'll go with 25.
Okay. Yeah, I'm friends with a gentleman who says he's 46 years old, and he's like, I'm 46. I have the spirit of a 10-year-old, right? Of a kid. I look and feel 25, but I have the wisdom of an 80-year-old.
There you go.
Right? That's the attitude.
Go. That's a good attitude.
What advice would you give your self, Travis, if you could back to your 20-year-old self and give him some advice?
If I would go back to my 20-year-old self, I would really want to have a conversation around the competence confidence loop. If anybody is
okay.
Let me just unpack that for a little while. When practice, learning, and studying, all 3 of those things, they yield confidence, right? If you're practicing a skill, if you're practicing playing an instrument, if you're practicing on an athletic field, right? Learning, whether that's learning by reading, whether that's learning by an on-the-job training, all of those things, they yield confidence. And the more that you practice, the more that you understand your craft, the more that you put yourself out there, you get better at those things. And when you get better, you feel more confident. And in turn, when you're more confident, then you want to try new things and you want to what? Learn again, grow again. And so it's this confidence competence loop that really leverages the opportunity to overcome insecurity in any area of your life.
Okay. It sounds like the A factor. AWE, right? A stands for ability, WE stands for work ethic.
Okay.
So you can have someone who has an ability of 10, but their work ethic is 5. They'll yield 50, right? But then
There
if
you
you
go.
have someone who has an ability of 5 and a work ethic of 10, they'll yield 50. But with that work ethic of 10, right, with their competence will go up. So all of a sudden, a couple of weeks, the more they put in the reps, their ability will go to 10. Now they're going to have a work ethic of 10, and their results will be exponential now.
I like that. I like that.
The factor, you see someone and you're like,
Okay. I like that. I wrote that down. Thank you.
The second question is, what is a mindset shift that you've had that you can share with us that you think has contributed to your success?
Identity, 1,000% identity. If you to your point earlier about not ever stopping smiling, right? I believe that we're placed on this planet at this moment in time, talking to one another right now, the way that we are. That's not an accident. I believe that we're unique miracles. I believe that we're 400 trillion to one miracle to be in the spot that we're at right now. And if we really harnessed our potential through our identity, we would really want to have like earth-shattering, life-changing movements on a daily basis. That to me is where you start to understand your identity. You start to understand your greatness.
Your identity. So what is your identity, man? I'm just curious.
My identity is,
as?
I want to be the greatest father that my children have ever known.
Nice. Cool. Well, and why is that? Why have you chosen that?
Because I don't have a role model in that capacity. And for me, I want to make sure that I'm giving the next generation, my children, the best opportunity to live their greatest lives. It's a conversation I have all the time with my wife about how we're living in such a way now to where I don't need to be worried at certain ages about dollars in retirement. I want to make sure that my children know that I was there at every opportunity in their life and that I will be there for their children as well. While my son is out there grinding and building his life and doing what a man should do, I want to be in a position, and my wife and I be in a position to be able to take some burdens off of him, to be able to give his children some opportunities and experiences. And so that's how I live my life. When I go to the grave, I want to make sure that time and regret are two words that don't come out of my mouth.
Damn. The way that I put this is, strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create bad times create strong men create good times, and it's a loop, right?
Yeah.
So I'm living good times right now that were created by a strong man, right? A strong man creating good times. I'm living good times right now. The times that I'm living are pretty good, but instead of me being a weak man, I'm going to be an even stronger, wiser, more evolved and intelligent man who creates even better times in which kids are raised to be beautiful men and women who are stronger than ever, more wiser than ever, more evolved than ever.
Yeah.
That changed the world.
1,000%. Yep. On the same page, brother.
Awesome. Man, the third question is mindset map clarity. So do you have any tactic, strategy, tool, piece of advice to help people gain clarity of what they want, who they are, where they're going?
Yeah. Clarity to me is, I think you have to start to, first of all, you have to love yourself. That's the greatest clarity that I could give to anybody who's listening to this. When you realize it's okay to feel certain things like pride or love or ego, you become very, very grateful for who you are. And when you become grateful for who you are, you have a desire to improve. And I don't use the loving yourself in a wrongful way. I use it in a way that the blessings of your life and your breath and your time, you become a steward and a responsible steward. And when you start to love yourself, you put yourself in a situation to win. And if you're doing what you should as a man, as a modern gentleman, then you're prideful because you're putting your family in a situation to succeed. It's like no different than when you're on the airplane and you have to put on your mask first to save other people. This is the same thing. When you start to love yourself, you allow yourself to have authentic conversations. And when you have those conversations, then they spill over with your children. Every time I'm on a phone call, no matter where I'm at, I'm on speakerphone. I want my children to hear my business dealings, right?
Yeah.
I want them to hear who I'm talking to. My 6-year-old little sweet Kennedy, she will constantly ask me questions about business and people and what I'm doing and what words mean. I want those experiences to string together over the next 20 years. And for her to realize that for 20 years, she sat in the car with me on speakerphone and she learned and she understood and she grew and she saw me go through adversity. She saw her dad build momentum. She saw her dad get feedback. She saw her dad start with love, and that changed a whole trajectory of generations to come.
So exciting, right? Man, and I want to tie it back together with what you said earlier, which is like being the same as everyone is easy, right? The reason people are the same as everyone and they follow the pack is because they don't love themselves, because they feel that if they're their authentic self, they won't be approved, they won't be validated, and they won't be loved, right? They don't feel good enough. They don't feel like their authentic self is good enough. Therefore, they won't be loved and they'll die. That's why people are afraid to be themselves and are afraid to love themselves, because they feel that themselves is not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that like loving yourself is the key, man. Like if people started to love themselves and like and realize that everything starts from you, with you, like holy, like that's the key, man. Right? Yeah.
You got it.
All
Major keys.
Mindset map motion. What is a habit that you have that has contributed to your success?
For me, I'm a very cerebral individual. My brain never turns off. It never shuts down. I worry about everybody who's around me, who's not around me. I worry about every business dealing. I worry about every event I have coming up. I worry about all of it. So my habit is twofold. I never get out of bed in the morning without giving gratitude to God. And I'm always out of bed every morning, 6 days a week, not Sunday. 6 days a week, I'm out of bed every morning and exercising at 5:30 in the morning. I need to fill up my cup. I need to spend some time while my family's still asleep to give myself the peace and the opportunity to sweat and to really create some sanity in my life before I go and grind.
Amazing habit. Gratitude. So you never go to bed without gratitude first, right?
Never.
Right? And then you never get out of bed before. No, wait. You get out of bed every single day at 5:30 and you hit the gym by 5:30, except Sundays. Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Mindset map, motion, measure. So what do you think about measuring and tracking, man?
What doesn't get tracked doesn't get talked about.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. I think when you're tracking everything, I like to reverse engineer my plans. So most people will start out and they'll say, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow or Thursday or Friday or Saturday or Sunday? We kind of live by this calendar, if you will, right? But for me, where am I going? Where am I going a year from now? I don't want to spend 365 days on this planet and just have another go round. I don't want to be the same guy a year from now. So where am I going in a year? And so, I'm a big believer of like vision boards, for example, for people who want to write it all down, or, self-awareness, personal development, consistency, all sorts of different names for it. Right. But for me, I want to know where I'm going, and I reverse engineer that plan. And I'll tell you, I'm super, super clear with where I'm going. I don't like wasted movement. Everybody who works with me and for me, they'll get a text every day, several times a day, that says no wasted movement, no wasted movement. I talk about it all the time. I don't have time to waste. So I want to make sure that I'm done worrying about money at the age of 55. And I want to make sure that from that point forward, that I can spend every waking moment taking care of my children and their legacy. And so what am I doing to reverse engineer 55?
Okay.
It has to start at the outset for me. Where's my mind? Where's my body? I gotta be alive and in shape at 55. I gotta be able to take, wherever I need to go, get on any plane, get on any boat, get on any yacht, get on any jet. I need to be physically capable. I need to be mentally acutely aware. I need to be financially stable. I know for me, I'm a better human when Melissa is next to me. So I need to make sure that right. So I reverse engineer all of that. And so what am I going to do tomorrow doesn't really fit for me. I want to know what I'm going to do 25 years from now, because that's the real person that I want to be. I think oftentimes we wake up after a 40 and 40 lifestyle, 40 years working for the same job at 40 hours a week. We wake up at at that 40 and 40 lifestyle, and we're at a certain age, and we've lost our minds. We've lost our bodies. We've lost our significant others. We've lost relationship with our children. Why? So that we can get some pension from some government agency that tells us how good we were. I don't believe that's what God intended us to do. I truly believe that God wants us to be here from an honest to goodness, build up your identity and impart that wisdom to as many people as possible, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, so that they can understand their identity and so that this world can be a better place.
Purpose, growth, and contribution.
There it is.
That's what it is. Man, I've really enjoyed this. I'm usually a little bit more talkative, but maybe it's because I don't know why it is, man. I don't know. Maybe you were just like, throwing some bombs. But yeah, it was good enough. I like it. You were great, man. I loved it. And thank you very much for being here and dropping some bombs on me, the audience. And if people want to know more about you, what you got going on, and where can they go? Where can they go and find you?
Yeah, I'm on social media at I am Travis Richey, Richey, and go to convictedmindset.com.
All righty. Awesome. We'll have all your links, man, wherever this appears. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you, man.
Big time, brother. I appreciate you.
See you later. Thank you for watching the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms